Hello. It has often been said that happiness is best if you don't stare it in the face. It's a skittish creature. It's best if it's enjoyed from peripheral vision or even under a soft, gentle gaze. So who am I and why am I qualified to talk about happiness? Well, regarding qualifications, there was a certain carpenter's son 2,000 years ago that spoke to happiness. I'm hoping the connection still applies to a degree. I'm Bert Sarkkinen. I've been a timber framer for quite a few years, and I'm just going to share some of the happiness hacks that I've learned from my timber frame career. Now, the first happiness hack has happened multiple times throughout my whole career. I'm going to tell you a story about a job I did in Ketchikan, Alaska. So like all of our jobs, with this job in Ketchikan, there's a lot of churning and burning with the design and getting things right. And so a lot of fun creativity there, but it's not just a barrel of monkeys. There's also stress. Sometimes we get bad ideas or the ideas the client doesn't like. Sometimes I'm not listening. And sometimes the ideas are really hard to get. So there's this buildup, and then we work with the inspectors, we work with the powers that be for the permits and engineers. All these pieces work and come together, and then we fabricate the pieces. Then we have to make sure that they all get put on the semi, that they all ship, everything's accounted for, and then it's on the job site. Now, I was on the job site by myself, with a crew of framers. The builder was also the framing contractor, and I was helping him install this. So I'd flown up in my bags. The semi had went through Seattle onto a barge, and then the semi trailer was left on the job, so I just piled high with all this wood. So I show up with my bags Monday morning. We're all there, and there's build-up with all the tools that I'm bringing and what they need to have in place, and the crane and the lifting and safety protocol and all this. So there's a lot of buildup, and it's nothing in and of itself is really stressful, but it's building up, and it's all coming to this one moment, this 1 week. So the big fear is that I am going to cut a beam short or do something where we have to bring in more material and the job gets held up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, so this is the stage. So I'm working there, and I wish that I would have had another one of our artisans with me, because it ended up being just too much. Well, or I should say almost too much for this pea brain here. So I would work with, so you got two things when you're dealing with installation in the field, the raising. You've got the mental work in making sure things are going to fit, the hold downs, layout, trimming, cutting, assembly. In order to raise, then you've also got to operate with the crane with the actual install. And what was happening, and I did not see this coming, is my mind would go to making sure that production is laid out in front of me, getting the thinking done. Well, most of the time I would be into the thinking, and you notice the crane was just sitting there for a while, or people were struggling, things were happening, or there was an actual question. So I'd go work on, getting this rolling again with the actual install, and then back to my thinking ahead. And so this whole week, I was just scrambling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up ladders, kind of work a little bit, and then, back down, kind of try to think some more. Well, the last day, and I had scheduled 5 days, and my wife had come over to join me Friday night. We were going to kind of tour around Saturday, but I thought, well, if I need Saturday, then I would have that as a backup, and I did need it. So about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on Saturday, we're kind of winding things up. The entry was the last piece that went in, and we got it all done, and it's winding it down, and I stepped back and sighted where the valleys of this entry, there's some little timber valleys, how they were going to plane. and an electrified shock. I got them a couple inches too high, which I could lower that whole entry, but there's a lot of connections and stuff that would take a lot of work to get down. I'm like, oh, we don't even have time for that. Could I coach these people to do it? And it's just like, what to do. Well, in that instant, a solution popped into my head. It would just be the valleys of the actual rafters, the overframe rafters would be shifted, but on the inside it was going to work out fine. But I had to cut new valleys, which left me a couple hours for these complicated little gizzies, short, but lots of angles, a lot of cutting. Well, so we got set up, other guys cleaned up, and they fed me tools, and I just humped over this thing making sawdust. It went in, and during all those cuts, of course, I'm on pins and needles, because when you're moving that fast, and just to reverse an angle happens as easy as falling off a log. So it was pretty focused and intense. And got him in, okay, all gonna work out, and I walked up the hill. This was kind of down by the sea there, and walked up the hill and kind of surveyed it all, and mentally going through my checklist. Was it all done? And then, okay, my checklist completed, and it kind of like ding, and then relief. And I didn't realize that I had that much on my shoulders, but the physical sensation of smiling, just shoulders relaxing, and it's like, oh, I guess that was stressful. And it's the happiness hack I've learned from this job and many other jobs, is simply that you've got to get relief. In this case, I could have had relief by bringing up another artisan with me. Sometimes it's just grind through it and get it done. Other times, it might be if there's somebody in, like, say, an employee that it just really doesn't want the job and is causing problems, terminating that employee, getting relief that way. Sometimes, or in a relationship, not hanging out with someone so much. That's kind of short term, getting relief. Relief is a happiness hack. So let's say I'm dealing with chronic stress. What do you do with chronic stress? It's not a short-term fix, right? So wood has properties that are very grounding, soothing. So when I'm around beams and all that, it's really easy for me. For you, I don't know what you'd do, but I just simply get my hands kind of on the corner of the beam and stretch out, loosen up, and get close to the beam, and then I just rest my head on the post. I just kind of start tapping real gently. Then I tap harder and harder and harder and harder. And then when I stop, it doesn't hurt anymore. That's relief. That's how I deal with chronic stress. Every once in a while, I just get some relief built in. No, just kidding. So chronic stress, I journal. It seems to help. Just kind of every day I try to write something down. Sometimes there's not much that comes, but other times there's things that come off the tip of the pencil that have been kind of bugging me, and then they kind of clarify, and then you see them for what they are. And once you see them for what they are, and they're no longer this big scary vague shadow in my head, then it's like, okay, that's cool. Another thing is the serenity prayer, that give me wisdom to understand, to try to what I can control, what I can, and the wisdom to see the difference, however that goes. That's a acceptance type of thing. So that would be dealing with chronic stress. So big thing there, relief is a happiness hack. Try to get some. That's number one. Number two happened to me. It was the summertime. It was also on an install. This was local, so I didn't have the stress of like everything, trying to get everything perfect. If I had messed something up, there were options that weren't going to take weeks to repair or to fix. But this was a different type of stress. The job was super tight. I had been too optimistic bidding it, and so I was pulled from design and some of my other details, obligations during the day, and I was in the field working. And the other crew was doing their work in the field or whatever, but we're tight on this one, so I was digging deep to kind of minimize the pain, right? Well, it's going on fine. I was enjoying my days. It was going. But I didn't realize it, that working harder, so more hours in the day, and then the piece of this losing money was eating at me. And I found out it. I pulled up the job one morning, and the superintendent, who is kind of I really like him. His sense of humor is very pointed. He'd pitch you crap all the time. Well, I had made a bad decision the night before to try to save a beam that didn't quite make it into the beam pockets. So my solution was some hidden flange hangers put on the inside and fill in the beam pockets. And it was a little hokey. It wasn't the thing to do. And I got called out on the carpet. I pulled up in the morning, and I'll just call the guy Benny. There's Benny. He's looking at the beam pocket and looking at me through the windshield. He's like, "What game?" And I'm like, oh, groan. Got to deal with that. And so I eventually got out there and kind of tried to explain it, but he didn't let me off the hook. He says, I mean, I see framers hack stuff together all the time, but you, Bert, I mean, that's hack. And didn't let up. Well, he kind of would keep needling me through the day. About 10 o'clock, I was with the guys. We were talking about a lift we're going to do, how we're going to do it safely, keep everyone out of the way, and kind of focused on this. And Benny comes by and gives a little rah, 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 and mentally gave me a shove. And it was one shove too much. I snapped, and I chased Benny back into the corner. He's an older guy, kind of a little bigger, a little overweight. And I'm glad that he kind of just rolled with it and didn't try to fight back, because I was too far gone. So he didn't do that, and I kind of calmed down a bit, and I walked off. Well, then he got his dander up and said some things, and so we kind of met in the hallway there, and like a couple of roosters, "You want a piece of me?" chest out, and when I got that posture and was right in his face like that, and then there was enough cues there that I was like, okay, this is stupid. So I said, "Hey, Benny, this is dumb. Let me cool down, and we'll, whatever." So I kind of went back to my guys. We kind of did some work. Benny went out to his truck, and about a half an hour later, I went out to Benny's truck. He's sitting there having a cigarette, and I said, "Benny, can I talk?" He said, yeah, go ahead." I said, "Benny," I said, "I'm a Christian, and I hold anger like that to be a sin. And I'd wondering if you could forgive me for that." And then he said, "Yeah, dude," he said, "don't sweat it." He said, "I know things happen out here," and blah, blah, blah. So kind of had a little time there, and I went back to work. Benny eventually left, and that night, when I got home from work, I called up the builder. I wanted to kind of let him know how I screwed up. I says, "Hey, Builder Bob, did Benny tell you what happened today?" And Builder Bob says, "No, Benny's in the hospital." I said, "In the hospital?" He says, "Yeah, he had a heart attack." "Heart attack?" "Yeah, yep, went in today." And I'm like, "Well, Builder Bob, I might have caused that heart attack. Let me tell you what happened." And so I told Builder Bob what happened. He said, "No, Bert," he said, "Benny been having blackouts and stuff for over a week, and it's been something that's going on. I'm sure it didn't help, but you didn't cause it." And I still felt pretty bad. So I went to the hospital the next day and said hi to him and whatnot. But and his wife was there, but it felt good to kind of just do the right thing, admit when I was wrong. And that is the second happiness hack that I learned on the job. I'll probably do it again, mess up somehow, but listening to that little voice and doing what's right is a happiness hack. Okay, the last happiness hack I want to share with you happened again on the job. This was a winter day, way up in the mountains, pretty high elevation, always a lot of wind and rain up there. We're going to do an install. I had two guys that were in training, capable guys. They'd framed a lot, but didn't know as much with the application of the timber frame install. And I was hoping to be there a couple hours, and I had some other things I had to get to, sort of blow in and blow out and be gone. Well, I got there in the morning and we started working, and the way things were going, and it just wasn't going to happen. Things were they weren't getting it. Things were kind of getting messed up. And as it went like that, I started getting pretty wound up. Just tighter and tighter, and pretty soon I was moving faster and faster, saying less and less. And my guys picked up the vibe, and pretty soon we were moving, and then the work was screaming along, and we're going to get it done, and running around just half pissed off. And we're raising a beam with the genie lift, the hand cranks, and it was going up. It was pretty heavy beam for one lift, and ting, 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 the cable's kind of going up like so. And I reached under the beam, and I grabbed a block, but my finger was on the top corner of that block, and then one of the pulleys folded, and that beam crashed out, just bam, right on my finger. And it kind of spit my finger out. Ow! And you wouldn't believe it. It hurt, and I didn't know if what was going on. And my finger's still intact, it still moves. This is the prop I have for you. It's a witch's finger anymore. I point like this so I can point straight. But in that moment, I suddenly became happy. Yes, happy. Why? Well, it's a paradigm shift. All of a sudden I was focused on all these small things not going right, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, that could have been bad. And it could have been worse. This beam could fall on someone the way I was going, and I didn't even appreciate that the sun was out, the wind wasn't blowing, it wasn't raining cats and dogs. None of that was appreciated. I was focused and angry about all this small stuff. And because I got my finger smashed, all of a sudden I was happy. I had a paradigm shift. And not long ago, in the same vein, at my son's wedding, a relative of the family of the bride suffered an aneurysm. A lady in her 50s, and was gone in like a day. Like gone, dead. Pow, just like that. And one of the pieces of advice at the groom's dinner was that don't sweat the small stuff. Don't get too involved with it. And as we talked, they was wouldn't it be wonderful if you could take that feeling you get when something big like that happens, smash finger, somebody dies, a paradigm shift. If you could take that, bottle it up, and the next time that I'm feeling angry about all this small stuff, just like, and get a sniff of that feeling of that big paradigm shift, wouldn't that be awesome? And that is the third happiness hack, is a paradigm shift. When you get into this small stuff that's getting you big, think, okay, look, nothing lasts forever, and right around the corner I could have something big just this waiting to happen in my life that's going to make all this just pale in comparison. So that is the third happiness hack, either in a little bottle, a metaphorical bottle, or think that, hey, something big's right around the corner. When you start to feel that happening, that's number 3. So where do we go from here? So first question is, which of those 3 do you think will help you for the rest of your life? You've got the relief, finding relief in some way, shape, or form when you're in stressful situations. Relief is happiness. The other is doing what's right, fixing your mistakes. And the other is the paradigm shift, to get away from the stress and the anger, shift over. So which of those 3 will help you the most? And now, to put rubber to the road for you, I want you to think about awareness and cues when you might be needing to instigate this happiness hack that you've just picked up. And just like we talked about at the front, where you really can't stare happiness in the face and just grab it by force, we want to talk about peripheral vision and acceptance. And one way to think about that is, there's a simple pendulum, there's just a string line. If we don't accept where we're at now and think that this too will pass, if we're trying to push away pain, we can only hold it off so long, and whew, it comes close. And if we find something that we love, we just want to cling happiness to our chest. Let's get it over here. Well, we can only hold it here so long, and it swings away. Just keep in mind the acceptance, the soft gaze, the peripheral vision, and that's going to really help you put rubber to the road with any of these happiness hacks that you've picked up here in this short video. Thank you.